Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. Yep, coming to you yet again from the campus of Portland State University in Oregon. Although I have to tell you, I'm a little sad because tonight is actually the last class of the summer semester. And in some ways it means that my summer adjunctivity is over. But you know, listen, there's still exams to grade, and the great news is that I have a continuing relationship with this school, with Tom Gilpatrick, and the terrific Center for Retail Leadership that he's helped to create here. And you know, listen, the center is really amazing. One of the things that I'm so impressed by is the way that he's managed to turn it into a real player in the local community. You know, he's really able to kind of turn it into a resource for retailers and manufacturers and service providers. And he's also been able to make connections between the students and these businesses that are going to be really great for these students as they go forward. You know, a perfect example of that is, you know, tonight's class actually is not going to be in the classroom. We're actually going to have the class at a New Season store. And thanks, by the way, to CEO Wendy Colley for making that possible. I really appreciate it. And that's going to be terrific. We're going to be in a store. And it's really important to get outside the classroom if you really want to learn how business is done. And the other great thing about this entire summer has been we've had some wonderful people come into the classroom to share their philosophies and their experiences and their insights with the students. And that's been that's been a huge advantage. We've had people like Mike Burrington. You know, Mike has forgotten more about e-commerce and e-grocery than I'm ever going to know, and he was terrific. People like Eric Wolf. And Eric practically created the whole notion of food tourism, and he was a wonderful guy to have in the classroom. Let me tell you, food tourism, it's a big deal here in Portland. People like Bruce Silverman. I mean, Bruce has been a retailer for a long time, but he's kind of a born-again entrepreneur, and he had some fascinating insights to share with the students. Tonight we have Todd Cornwell from Fran's Bakeries. He's going to talk about branding. I think that's going to be fabulous. So, you know, listen, having these people come into the classroom, it's a wonderful experience. And by the way, if you'd ever like to come into the class, send me an email. We'd love to have you, because it's this wonderful sort of experience for everybody where we all learn a lot. The one speaker I want to talk a little bit about today is actually the first speaker we had. It's a guy named David Howitt. And I've talked to about David a little bit before. He was actually on a panel that I ran here at Portland State earlier this year. But since then, I had a chance to read his book. And the book is called Heed Your Call. And I'll put a link to the Amazon page on the text version of this commentary. And Heed Your Call is a really fascinating book. It sort of mixes a lot of different things together. There's some philosophy, there's some spirituality, there's art, there's commerce. Hey, there's even movies, which I love. He's got Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, among many others, mentioned in the book. And the whole notion behind Heed Your Call is that, listen, businesses don't have to be lowest common denominator in the way they approach things. Hey, listen, he's very pro-profit. He believes in the profit motive. But he also believes businesses can do something more than that they can actually change the world if they aim high enough. And in a lot of ways, what's the point of aiming low? And I really believe that. I think that one of the things that he talks a lot about in the book is the notion that, and he tells a lot of stories, but he takes us through his own experience. He started out as sort of a really miserable lawyer, billable hours, and he says it's like staring into the abyss. But since then, he's been able to sort of kind of recreate himself. And he tells us his story and uses that as a kind of metaphor for how businesses can tell a different story, can reach high, can change the world. And I think that's really, really important. You know, one of the stories that he tells in the book, which really resonated for me, he tells a story about how a grandfather is talking to his grandson. And the grandfather says, you know, grandson, there are two wolves that live inside us. And one of the wolves is good and believes in faith and believes in hope, believes in goodness, believes in fairness. And that wolf will never get into a fight if it doesn't have to. It believes in only fighting the good fight. It believes essentially in love. And the other wolf, the other wolf is evil. And it is driven by hate and arrogance and envy. And that wolf is always looking for a fight, whether it needs one or not. And it's always going to the lowest common denominator. And he says those two wolves are constantly struggling for dominance inside of us. And the grandson looks at the grandfather and says, but which one wins? And the grandfather smiles and says, whichever one you feed. I think that's really important. I hope that one of the things that we've been able to do this semester in the classroom is been able to show the students that is how important it is to feed the good wolf. And heck, I hope that's something we're able to do on a regular basis here at Morning News Beat as well. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this Wednesday morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.